promoted by the ESPRESSO-project. This is the 8th webinar of the ESPRESSO series, and as you know, or as you may know, goal of ESPRESSO's webinar is to share knowledge and the best practices on the usage of standards in smart cities. So we welcome any suggestions from our followers, from you, from our stakeholders, and of course members of our network on topics that you would like to share with us, or that we should address in these webinars. Of course, you are also very much welcome to present your experiences and best practices in a webinar. So if you want to share them, just let us know. My name is Mario Conci. I'm from Hub Innovazione Trentino, and I am part of the ESPRESSO consortium. The topic of today is the CityKeys project, as you already see on your screen. I'm not going to add any other information about the project, since we will listen about it from our three speakers. Before starting with the first presentation, I just would like to remind you that this webinar is going to be recorded and then uploaded on our ESPRESSO website, and that we will collect questions at the end of the three presentations. So for the time being, I would like to ask you to mute your microphones and yes, to ask questions at the end. So let's start with the presentation by Peter Bosch, TNO. Peter, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mario, and welcome everyone to this webinar. I'm working at TNO, which is a research organization in the Netherlands, and I've been largely responsible for developing the indicators in the CityKeys project, together with the team, of course, and together with our cities. CityKeys is also a project subsidized by the European Union. What is CityKeys about? We were asked to answer the question, this is slightly outside of my control. Okay. We were asked to answer the question, how successful are smart city projects? Can we learn from projects executed in cities and say, okay, this project does better in that way, this project does better in that way, and that's because of this, this, and this. And that makes that for the next time we should do it better. And of course, we would like to see, what are the impacts of smart city projects? People are talking a lot about smart city projects, but do they really make a difference in the outside world? Do they really reduce energy consumption? Do they really contribute to better air quality? And that we would like to know. So our project started with the idea we would like to look at smart city projects, and not only from one point of view, in the sense of how many energy they save, but in a holistic way. Do they contribute to various aims of the city in terms of environment, in terms of energy, in terms of social goals, in terms of becoming an attractive city for companies to choose their location in, etc. So we look at, on the one hand, what are smart city projects doing, how successful are they, what impact do they have, and how much do they contribute to the overall goal of smart cities. And for that, of course, you need to think at the beginning, like we did in our project, on what is a smart city. And in our project, we worked together with a couple of cities in Europe, had a lot of discussions with other cities outside of the project, and came up with a quite wide definition of smartness, not limited to narrow ICT developments in the city, but quite wide, stressing doing that smartness is doing things wisely with the various resources, and one of those resources for achieving a number of aims in terms of resource efficiency, a thriving economy, local democracy, etc. A little bit about our project. We have based ourselves a lot of existing indicator work. There is a lot of excellent indicator work has been done in the previous years, not necessarily on smartness, mainly widely in terms of sustainable frameworks, but some also on smart cities. We've used these. We've interviewed citizens. What would they see? What definitions? What would they like to get out of smart city projects? And on that basis, we designed a system of indicators for performance measurement and the data collection that's of course necessary for making it work. In our discussions with the cities and also the citizens, from our considerations on what's around there in the indicator world, we came up that in a five-fold division of our measuring framework. The top three here: people, planet, prosperity, or profit, if you're coming from a business point of view, are the standard again, excuse for this is I'm in a building with some noise at the end. The three first layers are from the standard pillars of sustainability, but we realized, and we knew it also from previous projects, that projects will not be successful if the process and the governance around a project is not well organized. And that impact will not be realized if it's a lousy organized project. So we added a category on governance indicators. And finally, you can do as many nice small projects as you want, but if they stay in one city or one district, they won't make a difference. So explicitly, we looked at the inherent characteristics of projects to see how suited they were for dissemination to other cities, other contexts, and we called that with another P, propagation. But that's the diffuse stands for the diffusion of projects to other circumstances. Under these five themes, we distinguished what we called, say, policy topics, and say for the people, it's quite logical. These are main policy aims that city policymakers happen: increasing the health of the population, providing a safe city in many aspects, provide education for all, create diversity and social cohesion in neighborhoods. Similar for the other themes like planet, mitigating the global climate change and saving energy, prosperity, getting employment in the city. So these are policy aims that policymakers in the cities can liaise with and can recognize. Under each of those policy teams, we've distinguished a number of indicators to measure what impact smart city projects have on the various policy teams, and say how much they contribute to local employment, how much they contribute to the reduction of the emission of carbon dioxide. And let's give, in my next slide, a few of those examples. These are indicators on annual final energy consumption, stakeholder involvement. For instance, in the propagation team, the issue of, is this project a solution to development needs that are felt in more districts or more circumstances in Europe? A number of the indicators are well known and are also part of many other indicator frameworks. And some others are specifically designed for evaluating projects, because there aren't that many project evaluation systems around. What we also did was looking at how much does a certain project contribute to the overall goals of the city. So apart from indicators to evaluate projects, we created linked We created a number of linked indicators on the city level, so that it is possible to say how much each project or a collection, a program of projects has in the end contributed to the overall aims of becoming a smart city. And of course that's not possible for all indicators, but for a limited set of indicators like on emissions of CO2 or air pollutants, energy use, that is indeed possible. A few words on getting the information. For project levels, it's very much on project documentation, interviews with project leaders, but also sometimes on automated monitoring systems in the cities. And for the city level, it's largely municipal statistics, but also in some cases open data resulting from automated monitoring. And we processed all these data, normalized them, aggregated them into scores for each of the axes if necessary, but mainly indicators have a value on their own. And then I'm coming to nearly the end of my presentation. What do you get? If you have evaluated a project, then you get some lessons out of that. And that can be lessons on, say, the technology improved. Was the technology appropriate for the situation at hand? Was it, could it function better in the given circumstance? Could it function better in the given circumstances? But it has also lessons on the organization, the process of a project. For instance, has the communication with the stakeholders or end users be as it should be? Have all expertises been involved that were necessary for creating a successful project? And finally, lessons on, say, the financial and economic side of a project, like you have it often in energy projects for buildings, that split incentives play an important role. Well, my last slides, what is the relation between CityKeys and ESPRESSO? Indicators are already for many years a topic of standardization. We want to compare projects, we want to compare cities, circumstances, and hence indicators are in institutions like ISO a topic that people are working on. And for instance, within the ISO context, you have technical committees that are dealing with sustainable development indicators for cities, etc. So the indicators is clearly linking with standardization, and hence also the CityKeys indicators are a basis for thinking on within ESPRESSO on indicators, but also at the same time it can be a part of ESPRESSO Smart Cities Information Framework, with the notion, of course, that within CityKeys we've looked very much towards impact indicators. We wanted to know what the impact of project has been, and we have looked to a lesser extent to indicators on, say, the input, how many money has projects costs, how many time it has cost within a city department, or on outputs like how many traffic lights have been equipped with some smart feature, etc. And then finally we offer, of course, a set of tested impact indicators for the ESPRESSO indicator platform. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Peter, for your presentation. I hope that everything is fine in your building. As said before, we will collect the questions at the end of the three presentations. So I'm going to leave the floor to the next speaker, that is Aapo from VTT. Please.
Yeah, and again with my apologies for the sounds that was at the background from time to time.
So hello everyone, my name is Aapo Huovila from VTT, and I have been leading the work on the testing in CityKeys, testing with cities. So what did we test actually was the indicator framework that Peter was presenting, and also the tool that we have developed together with the cities to implement the indicators. So the indicator framework was already first developed together with our cities in the consortium, the 5 cities that we have, but the testing phase allowed to test the validity in real case studies in cities. So things like how easy the different indicators they can be calculated, and then about data availability and how much time is needed to calculate the indicators. Then the other important aspect of the testing phase was to test the applicability of the framework in different contexts. What are the differences, because cities of different sizes and from different geographical locations have very different conditions for different indicators. the other part of the testing was related to the tool that we tried to ensure a co-design approach with the cities, so that cities first specified their needs for the tool, and then were involved in the different stages of the implementation, development and implementation, and giving feedback on different versions of the tool before the final version. So the main testers were the 5 partner cities in the project consortium, and they made a comprehensive testing of the project indicators, of the city indicators that we have, and then also evaluated like the link between the project and city indicators. There were 2 types of indicator calculation, manual input and automatic reading, that were also tested by these cities. And in addition, there has been a wide network of cities and other projects who have shown interest in CityKeys and who have been involved during the whole project by giving feedback on a voluntary basis on different activities and results that we have had in CityKeys. They were also actively involved in this testing phase, so there were various additional cities and projects who tested the smaller set of indicators, or just gave feedback on the indicators, or tested the tool. They had different interests and tested smaller parts of the framework. And there are also still many other cities and projects who are still planning or in process of implementing the indicators or tools in other contexts. So in the indicator tool that was used in testing to assess the indicators, there are 3 different ways to update, insert or update the indicator values. Those can be inserted manually through the tool user phase, or read automatically from, for example, open data platforms, or then the user can insert them through the different RESTful APIs that we have provided. On the front page of the tool, there are the main functionalities. The first is the input of the indicator values, and that section contains the short indicator descriptions and guidelines for assessing the indicators, and the indicator values can be stored there. The other section is visualization of the assessment results. So mainly the user can either visualize the performance of an individual indicator over time, or then visualize the overall assessment results on a spider diagram. And there is also a possibility to compare assessments from different moments on the same spider diagram. Among the 5 cities that are involved in CityKeys, they identified many different use purposes for the indicator framework, and they also had different priorities and focus points during the testing. Maybe most of the cities had a higher priority on testing the project scale, and basically the use of the framework in that context was to set targets before the project starts and then monitor during and after the project how the real performance is achieved. Also, this project scale is the most relevant, for example, for lighthouse projects. But then also some cities focused on the city scale assessment, and there from our consortium, the cities saw an application potential for the indicator framework at higher management level of the city. One possibility would be to use the indicators when a city has a smart city strategy to set targets, measurable targets, and follow how well those are achieved. Another possibility is to use the indicator to decide on starting new projects and steering how the projects in the project portfolio are performing. About data availability for the quantitative CityKeys indicators, we made an analysis of each datasets needed, and among the five cities, on average, 70% of the datasets are available for the city level. Then for the project level, the important activity before starting assessing indicators is to define the boundaries of the project, and that is naturally very crucial for the indicator assessment, and that is not always a very easy task, as we have seen during the testing phase, because the boundaries of the project, then they set the boundaries for the data used to calculate the indicators, and the boundaries have an important effect on the results also. We have seen that there is a lot of open data available. Some cities have up to 300 open data sets provided through their open data platforms and catalogs, but only a small portion of that data is relevant for smart city, for smart city indicators and the indicators that we have in CityKeys framework. So the data availability analysis was based on this analysis of data sets in our 5 cities, and we categorized the data, the available data between open data, other public data but not provided as open data, and confidential data. So after, based on the testing phase, we have seen that the city's involvement is really crucial when developing an indicator framework that is meant to be used by the cities, and also to develop the tool. And this is not always evident for researchers, because we think that we know what is important for them sometimes, but then at least myself, I have realized many times that cities, based on their everyday life and experience with this applying these issues in practice, they have knowledge that I'm not aware of, and which can really change things when developing, for example, the tool, and like it has been very important that they have been involved in all the development and implementation of the tool as well. The testing overall was quite successful, and we managed to test almost all the indicators without problem. Most of them. There are some rather minor differences in some indicators about how those are calculated in different cities, or what are the units that are used in cities' existing databases. And we have made some rather small amendments to the indicator descriptions based on the testing feedback. The uniqueness of CityKeys framework is on focusing on this final impacts of the smart city projects, and this has been really well received. Some other frameworks focus more on technical aspects and efficiency of implementing some technologies, for example. There are important differences between cities that have to be taken into account, and of course not all the indicators are as important for the cities when we take these differences into account. Of course the size and population density are things that affect, for example, accessibility related indicators. Then climatic conditions, they have an effect on the needs that we can set, for example, on energy consumption. Economic level and technology maturity, it affects also, like, for example, which type of smart city technologies are feasible in some city. And then we have seen that the smart city activities are coordinated in very different ways in cities. Some cities have a smart city department that is coordinating everything, and some other cities need to collaborate with 5 or more departments within the city, and that is not so easy, because the framework is very holistic and covers different aspects. About data management, we can also see that some cities sometimes have data in someone's Excel file, and the others are not aware of that, and there is cities are in process of further developing their centralized data collection practices and databases, and when those are in place, it will be much more easy to collect data automatically, for example. And then cities also have different aims on some aspects. For example, most of the cities in our consortium see the use of the framework in what we have called self-benchmarking, so they set targets for their own progress and then monitor that. And there are still some cities that would like to benchmark with other cities as well. Then there is this project scale that allows comparison between different projects, and we have a uniform scoring scale for those, but at city scale it's not possible to set generic target values for all the cities because of these climatic conditions and other differences. CityKeys framework is a balance between quantitative and qualitative indicators, and we have also seen that some cities prefer quantitative and other prefer qualitative indicators, stating that based on different argumentation, either quantitative or qualitative is giving more information to the user, and also depending on the context. So at the end, as a summary, like based on the testing, how we have seen CityKeys framework applied is that we allow a flexible approach for selecting the indicators. We provide a wide variety of indicators on different topics, but then cities in a specific case have different focuses, and they are allowed to select a set of the indicators to assess that project or the city, if that is the case. So thank you for my part.
Thank you, Aapo. So let's move to the next speaker, Daniel from the city of Zaragoza.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So thank you all for being there. Just a quick presentation from our side. Zaragoza, if you don't know, is the 5th largest city in Spain, mainly known for logistics and its energy and water policy. Since some years ago, we also wanted to develop a brave smart city strategy, and we created the smart city department to foster and to promote this strategy. So our participation in CityKeys was for us a key activity within this strategy, because we wanted to achieve a better position for this smart city department within the organization, as KPIs, or as providers of horizontal indicators about how the city was doing in several fields. I have a problem now because I can't see the presentation. Okay. Can you share my screen again, please?
Yes.
Okay.
So now you should be able to share your screen.
Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, fine. All right. So so our objectives here was were very specific. We wanted to foster the KPI culture in project management. That was the first objective. We wanted also to increase intra-departmental cooperation and horizontal policies because of this smart city department we were trying to launch. But also we wanted to increase or improve our open data policies by raising awareness within the organization about the importance of providing open KPIs. And a last goal was to increase citizen, let's say, participation or awareness about city making, and to share this notion of how well or bad the city was doing in related to smart city fields as energy, mobility, and technology with the citizens. Now, we were more interested in project KPIs than city KPIs, because we found that the relationship between project and city KPIs was not straightforward. We are a small city department, and we are not managing all big projects in the city. So the impact of the projects that we were managing was relatively small within the overall city policy. So we were very cautious about that, and we liked to focus on the project KPIs. We also found out that above all, the smart city, there are many definitions about smart city, but above all, it's an organizational challenge. It's about breaking silos within your organization and establishing new cooperation dynamics between our organization. So being able to collect KPIs and being able to provide to the whole organization indicators was a way not to break but to erode these department silos. Now, we also found out that although we were relatively good in open data policies, many of the indicators or many of the data that policymakers used for decision making were not open, in fact, were data that each department was keeping for themselves, or that they were reporting separately for the typical press release that we all do every year about how well the mobility is doing or how well the water department is doing, etc. But mostly the source data were dark data. So it's a huge work to open up and to make this data emerge to the surface. Now, one of the things we mostly liked about CityKeys, and this is a use that we were not intending to be performing at the beginning of the project, but we ended up doing, was that we have a city for arts and technology where we do, it's an innovation, the big innovation hub of the city, where we do a lot of workshops with citizens and with different smart city stakeholders. So it was useful to use KPIs provided by CityKeys to spark the conversation with citizens and with smart city stakeholders about the gaps, about the problems that the city have, and it was a good way to start these co-creation workshops that we're doing about new public services. This picture is one of the examples that we were trying to build a new system for increasing the intermodality between the tramway and the bike system. So identifying how well connected were the two transport modes through KPIs, but without meaning that KPIs is replacing or substituting also the knowledge, the field knowledge that many of the people, citizens, civic activists, or public servants have about how the city and how the neighborhoods are doing. Now we learned a lot by working with the CityKeys project, and we also we didn't get all the answers to every question. For example, that we learned that uniqueness of data is very difficult. There are always slight changes between the same data from one city to another. For example, this is the example of the percentage of youth unemployed. Okay, so what is youth? What is unemployed? They seem very simple concepts, but when you compare from one city or from one administration to another on the European level, even the most simple word can have different meanings. Another thing that we learned is that we don't have, as in the City Hall, we don't have all data related to the city. We need to look and to search for urban data in other administrations or even in other sources. You think that you control everything that's happening in your city. That's not the way it is. A good thing about being able to set up KPIs or a measurement system is what we call the observer effect. Projects improve just by measuring them. Okay, because project managers, people involved in the project, they know that they are being evaluated and measured, and that's a positive thing if the conversation is a positive one, and it's a cooperative conversation, of course. Now, some open questions about city rankings. Are cities comparable? Well, Aapo said we had very socio-political and geographical, very different contexts. So city rankings, okay, we're not so interested. We cannot compare the value of adding a new kilometer of bike lane in Stockholm to the value of adding a new kilometer of bike lane in a city in Romania or in Moldavia. It's the same kilometer, it's the same data, but it's not a comparable effort. Now it's easier about the city learning cycle. It's easier to measure than to actually change policies as a result of those measurements. changing policies and how city learn about after measuring things, it's a completely different story, and that's the really difficult part. And of course, what we wanted also to leave open is, okay, we are measuring how well we're doing, and so now what's next? What can we build upon this framework, which is a great framework, to actually build products, to foster smart city development, sustainable business models, etc. And finally, data sharing between urban key players. And that is something important because we put the weight on the public administration, but urban data is mostly in the fields of private actors, okay? Telecom service providers, utilities, mobility providers, Uber, Airbnb, etc. So we need to involve these great key urban players also into the conversation. So that's my part. I haven't filled this slide, but you know, you have my contact, so anything that you want to ask or write me, we're open to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel, for your presentation, and also thank you to Peter and Aapo. So now I will open the floor to the questions from our audience. I've seen already that there has been already an exchange of question and answer via the chat. I don't know if you have any question, feel free to unmute your microphone and ask, or write it in the chat. So for example, via the chat, Jordina asked about a comparison between Smart Cities Council indicators and the CityKeys indicator. There, Peter Bosch has already answered to that question. I'm not going to read it, the whole answer, but you can find it in the chat. As well, you can also find the link provided by Nikolaos, where you can download the data sets of the indicators.
Mario?
Yes?
I note there is another question that I could answer now.
Yeah, okay, yes, please go ahead.
The question is to select and collect it's from Jordina.
Yes.
Right. To select and collect indicator data with CityKeys. Do you think that it would be useful to do it with different phases? And you can answer this question in different ways. And in a way, there is a kind of phasing. CityKeys you can use for looking at projects, and it's possible to use the CityKeys indicators in the phase of designing the project. And of course, it needs to be more than just an idea, and a kind of worked out project in the sense of, well, installing some traffic guidance system for speeding up traffic, or doing something on last mile delivery, or improving a housing block. These projects you can evaluate already in a planning stage with the CityKeys indicators, and it gives you some lessons on what could be expected in terms of well, energy savings, how they relate to other aspects of the project. You could also use the CityKeys indicators to evaluate projects that have been finalized, and for that especially that looking back part on governance and propagation is a very important one. And yeah, there are lessons to be learned from that. So there is that two phases. Anyway, the CityKeys indicators on the city level are a kind of continuous learning process that we are in a way all in, where we try, in the course of time try to improve the information on the city level that we have on our cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And there is also another question by Peter Paslow in the chat. And the question is, what is the relationship between CityKeys and the indicator work at ISO/IEC?
Before we created our CityKeys list of indicators, we evaluated around 60 existing indicator sets. And yeah, of course, ISO 37120, which is the indicator set from ISO on sustainable cities and communities. No, that's sustainable. Well, sustainability, sustainable cities was one of them. So we used quite a lot of existing definitions from indicators, also from that ISO working group, to make sure that what we're doing in CityKeys aligns with what cities would be doing anyway from other viewpoints. And of course the ISO 37120 is a worldwide standard, and only part of it is suited and applicable for European cities, but there are many good indicators in that set that we've included too in CityKeys.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Are there other questions? I would like to ask a question to Aapo, and my question is, how was the experience of collaborating with cities during the tool development?
Yeah, that was very interesting, because most of the representatives of the cities that were involved in the testing and developing the tool also were not IT experts, and on the other hand, the tool developers from the research side, they were focused on IT issues. So they were completely complementary to the others, and I think both learned from the others, and the results wouldn't have been as good without this collaboration. Mm-hmm. And as I said during my presentation many times, we as researchers, we think we know how certain things should be. For example, how the user interface should look like, or what type of things should be asked or how about an indicator when that has to be assessed. But then we learned from cities that there was a completely different way that was much more easy and natural for them. So very good experience.
Okay, thank you. And do you think that cities are interested in developing KPI, or maybe on this can also answer Daniel? I mean, what is your experience in engaging cities in the development of this KPI?
Yeah, I think a general sentiment within the consortium between cities was that that we were definitely interested in developing and fostering a KPI culture within our organizations, because we all came from the operations part of the city councils. We were not so interested in city rankings, and that might be because of different reasons. None of us were from the branding or marketing departments, I think. That can be one reason. But the other reason is that we don't find it quite useful for our internal purposes to be good or bad positioned in a ranking. And we know the difficulties between comparing two different cities. One of the greatest things about cities is that there are no two cities alike. No two cities are the same. Each city, we're finding our unique solutions to our unique problems. Although we can share a lot in terms of experiences, but you cannot compare, as I said before, two cities with very, very different backgrounds, histories, socio-political contexts, sizes, etc. So we need to be very, very, very careful with city rankings and city comparisons. But if we were to be compared, one of the key improvements or contributions of CityKeys is rankings should be open. We should tell the world how things are calculated, what are the insights of the comparisons, etc. At least this is something that we can do, and that is something that CityKeys is definitely doing.
Thank you, Daniel. And a very last question from the chat before closing the webinar. There is a question on social inclusion. So what indicators could be used to evaluate the social inclusion impact of Smart Cities project? Who wants to answer on this?
Oh, sorry, can you repeat the question? I was distracted by the chat.
Don't worry. No, it was just a general question. I don't know who can answer to that. But the question was about the social inclusion. So what indicators could be used to evaluate the social inclusion impact of Smart Cities project?
I just typed an answer. That was why I was.
Yeah,
I can't do multitasking, but I typed an answer in the chat, and it's a very good and interesting question, because to measure that impact, you have to really do questionnaire surveys, and that's quite a time and intensive and costly exercise. So we in CityKeys tried to take a step at the very beginning, looking at what did the project do to improve social inclusion. And say one of the indicators was, for instance, the level to which stakeholders were involved. Another indicator is the degree that people of a target group were reached by the project. But these are still scratching only on the borders of that broad concept of social inclusion. And it's worthwhile to think further on that if you can come further without having to go in very costly data collection exercises.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter, for your answer. I think that so we reached the end of the webinar. So I would like to thank everyone for joining, to thank the speaker for their presentations and answers. As said at the beginning, if someone of you is interested to share their experiences on standards and smart cities, please do get in contact with us. You will find also the recording of this webinar on our website, espressoproject.eu. A few words on the next webinar. The next one will be in February. We haven't scheduled yet the exact date, and it will be on the Open Data Initiative carried out by the city of Haarlem in the Netherlands. Of course, if you are part of our SmackStack community, you will receive our webinar news. So thank you again for joining, and let's meet in the next webinar. Thank you. Bye-bye.